Okay, 3, 2, 1, 0. There I am. And we should float on top. Turn a little bit. Hi. This is a final for the two classes. I wanted to actually do a little brainstorming on this with you guys. Our final will be in spatial.io, one of the first off-the-shelf, high-res, scannable social VR sites, and AR. It does some interesting things in combination. Might as well see that here. Spatial. We have a portal already through Stony Brook for my classes. I've been using this program for about almost 2 years now during COVID, and I had some great results. I think this is a direction. I have a hunch that in the future we will be using these things for collaborating, getting a greater verisimilitude up. We all had experiences on Zoom. We come to a question about what should we debate about, what should we collaborate on in distance and beyond emotion and visual culture and little flat screens. What can we do to impact the city? So, and impact our lives, impact other people's lives, achieve a type of hybridity. So today's lecture I want to issue in the form of a brainstorming. I have my own answers. They're an experienced guy's answers who does this for a living. I want questions and answers from you guys. What should we do? We're going to place the portal in. Justin is going to give you help, and through suggestions and models you might find on SKETCHFAB, achieve a type of direction. Now, the brief, the RFP, request for proposal, that I have in mind is to do hybrid media, all sorts of media, including in the flesh and online, for a festival. I've done these before. I've planned these things. Got $2 million, not a lot, from Hyundai 22 years ago, New Year's Eve 1999. On the border of North and South Korea. How many people showed up? 40,000 people. At night, minefields were right over there. It was fun. Did a couple others since then, mostly in Korea. This festival, the brief for this festival is to combine a music performance cultural festival with permaculture. So it'll involve both classes. The brief for the art and technology class will be different from the brief for the urbanism class in this way. Art and technology will take care of the music festival, much like what is going on here in Bridgeport, Connecticut, at the end of September, the Sound on Sound Festival. Barely a 5-minute walk from here. A bunch of famous bands gather for 2 or 3 days and perform. But the inclusion of the urbanism class will be permaculture. How can we express the necessity for change, necessity for consciousness raising in terms of urbanism, in terms of living, in terms of alternatives for the future. And a lot of these festivals have become lifestyle festivals. I'll show you a brief I put together, which got some sort of formulation in Seoul and around the country, from Coachella to Burning Man to Bunkaroo, is that it? To the Scary Clown Festival in Ohio, which I guess is a real lifestyle changer. Your job is that, to provide the education, the politics, the activism for permaculture, urban permaculture. Does that mean housing exchange, fair housing, co-renting, roommates, low-term mortgages, everything that we can do to have the virtual world supplement the online, the real brick and mortar world, especially when winter is coming on. One of the really enjoyable festivals I used to go to in Brooklyn, pretty interesting and pretty diverse, was the Afro Punk Festival down at the park. It's in downtown Brooklyn, and that was interesting. They had book stalls. They had black bands playing punk music, and whites and blacks and Asians and everyone else were in a town, young and old. They had the booksellers selling the anarchist books, and it was a very urban themed thing. So it revolved around music, bands, not only Afro punk, but rap, hip hop, this delicious sort of blend of cultures only in Brooklyn. And it was very, very enjoyable. So that was kind of a lower scale. I don't know how much it cost. I don't know why it went away. Maybe COVID's done away with a lot of these things. But here are your tools. Here's your brief. Here's your RFP. Here are your directives. Here's spatial, which we've got to go inside. I have a video showing this before. Let me log in to our space. And Philip Alden's home. We had machine learning. This is what I've been doing. Esoteric, isoblock. A couple Chinese students of mine really did a great job. Test 216, immersive scene, grant group, Justin's digital. But machine learning V2 is one we'll put in. We have a bunch of portals for this anyway. And there's our cats again. Everyone keeps adding cats and posts like this. Here I am finally. Nowadays I have legs. I can move around, and you guys will be including portals within this space. Portal Park Expo, HHC Zulu. Travel to Portal Park. I don't know. I think others have added to us, like Facebook. They add links, or this is their social VR's. Look at that. Social VR's way of. These are my students, but I'm almost sure this is not ours. But let's travel. So you're going to be loading your portals. My urbanism class, I want ideas in written form, in movie form, in any form, in model form. I said again, Justin's going to help with SKETCHFAB, which allows us to add physics and the mapping. Yes, no, this is not really a technical class. This is a theory class, but the practice involves just minimal practice in CAD work, just on the level of doing a PowerPoint. Who is this hanging out in this space? Why are you here? Okay, it's a lot like SimCity. Okay, Atlanta, Savali, Bain. let's move around and travel to rooftops. Here's a nice city. What is it? Looks like a Chinese or Korean city, I know. Anyway, it's a made-up city, Portal Park. Within urbanism, you will have the brewery, our meta city. What does that mean? The humans, join the club. This is a lot like The Sims, maybe you used to play them, but this is definitely more serious because it's customized. I used to use Gary's mod years ago. A student got me into that. Let's go to our meta city travel. This is what we're doing. Urbanism, you add all your notes, your prognostication of what cities will look like in the next to 2050. Boy, is it going to change. Here I am again. I never see my face. It's coming in. I think that Stony Brook had added portals, DM'd us with portals, which I want you guys to get used to that too. Click here if to change your look anytime. No, sorry, I can only see my back. Travel to Music City. So, performance technology, you're going to do a music festival. That is it. Along the lines of loosey-goosey like Burning Man, or more acts as in Coachella, whatever. And you're designing the spaces. Again, your SketchUp license will probably have expired, so Justin and myself will help on this, devise models. We'll do some serious work, serious discussions, serious possible communications with people outside of, collaboratively outside of the class on this. So that's, let's walk down the main street. There I am. There you will be. It looks like I got size 13 shoes. Portals. Kind of interesting work. Serial killer. Huh. I don't know what's going on. Fun. I am contacting these people, the Yale Design Workshop, because they have done a study on resilient Bridgeport. The festival is supposed to take place right here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Here, the green area are flood zones. So if we don't, or even if we do get a hurricane at that same time we have the festival, may we live in interesting times. 2020, Connecticut Department of Housing, US HUD, getting a hold of them, see if we can do some interviews, and this was a very exhausting and thorough schedule about what are we facing when our cities are sinking. I live here in Bridgeport. I commute to Stony by boat now. We still have a foothold in Brooklyn. This is, I'll give you this RFP, which did get mayoral time. It did get money. It was, oh wait, here we go. Here's the important part. Was about, it was work with the Dutch engineering firm Arcadis, because Holland has similar problems. It's sinking, with a grant awarded of 10 million buckaroos. The team, it's not bad for a graduate department, develop a, well, I'm sure it was shared by the Dutch firm. Team is developing a strategic plan to reduce flood risk, improve resilience across Bridgeport's most vulnerable areas, mine, and to demonstrate this new resilience framework, the team will design and build project program. It was inspired, and the big ugly word is Sandy here, which devastated this whole area in 2012. So that's what I've got a PDF for that. And this is part of, what I'm a Yale graduate myself, what actual academia and institutions should be doing is working in the real world. There's too little of that out at Stony Brook. It's like I keep talking about it's like a monastery, factory, warehouse for young people, and we've got to change that. And the one way we can change that is by this new attitude brought on because of COVID. We now have these telemetric resources at our hands. Oops, sorry, no, computer, don't do this. I hear my fans going off. Come back, don't crash. Come back and don't crash. We'll give it a couple seconds here. I didn't even do that. At 16 minutes, we might have to. Come on, hon. Even with all this processing. There we go. It's behaving, kind of. So here it is. So I'll give you the links in Research Urban Design, Resilient Bridgeport, and it is still acting a little funky. Okay. Clear out. Back. Oh, it might be my little guy walking along because I can't control him. Yes. Processing on with JavaScript is a killer. Out of spatial into a couple projects. I wanted to get to one project in particular. What are we talking about? I want to also include at this festival, mostly for my performance and technology class. You remember that old, second oldest, Star Trek Next Generation, where they are always going to the HoloLens. That is actually makeable. So I'm trying to propose this. Every 2 years I propose this with Stony Brook and apply for the funding, and even then they don't see necessity. After COVID they should, but there it is. What is collaboration is a larger concept. And here we have dens, clubs, hives, cells are the four different directions. Autonomy increases, individual autonomy, and this is begging the larger question of like that we saw from our wonderful film documentary, The Future of Work and Death. If you are to survive in getting a job, because I don't think the prognostication for a universal basic income. My other class I made you watch 15 Million Merits, which is scary, cool, in talking about kind of the biggest thing got to me was UBI, Universal Basic Income. They're all rolling away at the exercise bikes. Very clever, adept way to talk about that. Dens, clubs, hives, cells. So we have autonomy increases, interaction increases. I used to go to many on Governor's Island. There's a thing now. There was a huge conference on NFTs in the city. I keep pushing you toward the city if you haven't gone. Go to the museums. There used to be an ecological festival down at the new museum. that was fabulous, kind of a hacker themed thing. I don't know if lack of funding or COVID killed it or both, but it might be back. We're trying to do that too. A festival of performance and permaculture. Ta-da. And I propose one of these for Korea. Now, in the future, I'll give you a spec list of what actually we want to have done. Urbanism, again, I want your beautiful essays, scholarships to show up into these spaces in some form. And I checked my email and your files. There's not a lot of mind-searing activity, but please give it a shot. Hives. What are hives? Beehives. We assume autonomy is low, it's lower left, and the interaction is low. And everyone knows their little jobs. Unfortunately, Stony Brook acts like a hive, set in motion by the state. It says it's a university, things are getting done, and you're supposed to, like a good little drone bee, you're supposed to know your position and don't transgress from that. Unfortunately, that might come over from New York public schools. I don't know where these implicit algorithms work in, but it's for, as we saw from the movie, it's pretty, we should avoid this model because of the basic message of that is in the future 50% of your jobs will be gone. So when we look at this, we look at collaboration, what will remain? And this is talking about the spaces here again, gang. Festival of performance and permaculture, a festival of culture, a festival of proposals, a festival of activism, but activism on the level of space, the entitlements of space, a warm roof and walls over your head for reasonable income, working with banks, working with NGOs, working with something to provide and offset this horrific ossified system that led to gigantic collapse in 2008, largely because of the way the housing market was treated like Vegas, and your bad uncle had all of the family's pension to gamble away. That crash in 2008 was terrible, avoidable. I'm reading a urban book now that said, ooh, if it were just computerized and we know about it, yeah, right. There were subprime mortgages, mortgages offered at such a low rate that they were predatory. My older brother got punked on that and lost a house. You might know family members or your family members who came down there. So in this festival, we're talking about permaculture, we're talking about seminars, ideas, meeting people, meeting an atmosphere where change is necessary, and so forth. Hives. The opposite of hive, and here is what we have certain companies like Sharp Computing gone. Let's see, Chat Day, Sun Microsystems is all the way over there at Cells, which is your autonomy. You're like little monks in a cell. This is also Stony Brook, but your interaction with professors, research, and other students are kept down to a minimum. So every other lecture I keep talking about the space. This is about space. And just the necessity to change these spaces. As we see opposite of that, where, it's the desirable position. Autonomy increases, interaction increases, and those are clubs. Up here are IBM, digital, and so they're the clubs are you can move over time and space. and maintain connection. This is actually the realm or the appropriate or desired realm for things in the telematics. So maybe we're aiming at, in the creation of these hybrid events, people can tune into our event on spatial I/O just as they tune in, and also there is Baryshnikov Center is doing the cherry orchard I'm going to suggest this to you, you're not required, but part of it happens online. So everyone is in love with this hybridity. Certainly NFTs are an aspect of hybridity. They're non-fungible, NFT, non-fungible tokens. They're items, they're not money, they're more like art, but they act like money. You can speculate, they grow, which is what art in the art market does. I attend the art crawl usually every Thursday for 30 years because it is moreover than the art. It's a slice of our society. Great documentary film called Blurred Lines, which examines kind of the unseemly aspects of the art market. It has a quote that says, if Wall Street behaved and acted the way the art market does, most of them would be in jail. Yes, there's no Security and Trade Commission for the art market. So NFTs have this aspect, but as I mentioned in the past thing, your generation is by necessity seeking to de-skill mine, to the shock and horror of most professors who've studied most of their young adult life to get their PhD, and maybe wake up to the fact that their specialty is not only marketable, but made irrelevant by a number of factors. I'm a classicist, so I do believe some things endure, but finding the enduring things is part of the problem in this world of pump and dump cryptos and NFTs and cities that are interchangeable and people living in continually cramped sites and all of that. What are dens? Dens are what Nickelodeon does. Steelcase, creating these special areas for workers to have greater interaction. So at Nickelodeon, there was it's the Cartoon Network and the vintage shows, and kind of a level of corniness and presentationalness to the programming. So they're not looking for a lot of, believe it or not, thinking outside of the box. They're looking for hyper interaction with other already chosen like-minded people. I tend to be suspect of dens and so forth. So we're talking about what spaces can we create that would allow for this. Here is something I showed you before. I divided this down in notions of what actually happens at music, performance, theater, opera, festival. There's performers, stage and performer. That was Thespis, the first guy who pretended he was someone who he wasn't. Believe it or not, people used to think that was strange 2,500 years ago. Coming out of a shamanic tradition where the shaman's not quite pretending to be someone he's not. He is that second, he or she is that second entity. The stage wants to be temporary, spectacular, worth it, communal, opposite of alienation. We don't go to these things to feel more alone. A magnet, a spatial, eternal, the Platonic cave, whether they're feeding us illusions or not, we don't care. Transmedia wants to be surrounding, audio, projection, mapping, mirrors, profound, spectacular, crafted. Spectator is different than the performer, wants to be connected where it's at. Contrasting to alienation, you want YOLO, FOMO, JOMO. You only live once, fear of missing out, joy of missing out. It was the name of our Italian book from my urban class a couple years ago. This is it. It's tribal. Our brain is switched off, yet it's in touch. The Campbellian quote, we're not looking for meaning we want those moments where we feel fully alive. Audience area as opposed to the stage wants to be potential, accommodating, safe, completely variable, flexible, where it's at, spatial, temporal. Transmedia input on the human-computer interface wants to be new, cutting edge, magical, anticipatory, kinesthetic, mixed, touch, LED, invisible, all of those other good things. So this is part of the brief everyone's going to go through. Here's mixed reality, and again we call this extended reality or mixed reality, and that is determined by on the left a real environment. With spatial I/O we can overlap with your phone. You can go and hit the lower right. It said, do you want to switch to AR? You switch it over, you turn it over, and then the bodies show up in the same room through a pass-through, whatever we're watching. This is the reality virtuality RV continuum, part of mixed reality, extended reality, and then we go in from augmented reality into complete virtual environment. Now, the whole thing on Star Trek Gen 2 was the holodeck. I think they did a Macbeth or Hamlet on the thing there once, Hamlet on the holodeck. Layering these classic scripts, tropes, ideas, and then the final layer was it was a television show, like I don't know, 5-10 years before the internet. So there was a degree of prognostication, as there was in the Ray Bradbury story, The Machine Stops. So that's part of it. And here's another graph on what left side of the gray line is the past. We're talking about the issues between past and future, synchronous, asynchronous. Asynchronous was work like, hi, you're seeing me asynchronistically done in the past, presented to you. You pick it up. The VR space, I'll check in, we'll pick a date, we'll do it synchronistically. You can leave your portals on that. You can say hi to me. And we can see in this festival of ideas where what's more important. Do we lose empathy and caring if it's asynchronous? Are we really missing the other person? Young people hanging out with younger people, people that attract them, people who they're interested in meeting, people who increase their sociability and decrease their alienation, all that other good stuff. So here's augmented reality. We covered this in the last video. Urbanism didn't get this, but each hive has basic, simple algorithms. Here's one of the simplest, the so-called prisoner's dilemma. It expands to, for the sake of urbanism, you're looking at cities within which dyads, monads are inside supposedly each one of these rooms because they need to be protected not only from the weather and the elements, but protected from public space. We see a difficulty of people who are homeless. There's a type of fraying of their sensibility. You can be a camper too and go out into the woods and camp. There's something about the four walls, the enclosures, something like I'm a total fan of it. The new van world that's going on now, you've all heard about, and maybe have friends who are doing it and buying anywhere from inexpensive to the Ford Transit, the Dodge ProMaster, or the Mercedes Sprinter, and turning it into houses for young people. Instagram's full of this. So let's go on. So what do you want for? Go away. I clicked you. This might work for us. This was a case I did for MedXR for the pre-med program at Stony Brook, which we talk about interaction and autonomy for the workspace of the future. One of the important lines in that movie I had both you classes look at, because I want the bottom line. I don't just want to rearrange deck chairs on the Titanic. I want to talk about real things. So of course I'm going to seem strange at Stony Brook. What the piece talked about is, there was one of the interlocutors talking about not only being de-skilled by AI, hence a lot of you guys, young people, are trying to de-skill old people before you are de-skilled by AI. But according to one of the speakers, he said that's already too late. We're all living in these paradigm shifts within 10 years, extremely rapidly. But the final examination, it was done by Doug Rushkoff. They mentioned Doug Rushkoff. The whole thing that we don't work, here's the rough quote, we don't work to earn money. We work to justify the ability. We work to justify the stuff that that is in life that we might or might not need, and therefore we need jobs. One of the quotes was, there's 2,700 calories for every person on Earth today, yet many work on $1, live on $1 a day, have 1 billion people have bad access to clean water, soon to show up in a neighborhood near you. I have a second level water purifier. So this is the task, you activists and people thinking about a festival, not only to raise consciousness, kind of an educational thing, but also taking actionable movements and so forth. So we have high immediacy, high bandwidth, low immediacy. Pre-recorded video is low immediacy, high bandwidth. That's me. I'm pre-recording these. Asynchronous discussion with video. Still don't know how that happens. Leave your text thing, but no one cares. Empathy is important in this. High immediacy, high bandwidth is video conferencing, Hangouts, Meet, Zoom, and Spatial I/O. Hangouts, Meet, Zoom. Low is collaborative documents, Google Docs, wikis, blogs. That's why I'm having you do blogs-esque type things. I used to have people just post it as blogs, but campus, for some unknown reason, didn't want, unlike the Ivy League schools, you guys to be out there already. You had to stay in the warehouse a little longer. Discussion boards with texts and images. And way down at the bottom, low bandwidth and low immediacy is readings with text and images, PDFs, good old books, libraries, things like that. Exciting world. Let's go on to clear out. The actual RFP or brief I did for Songdo City in Korea, outside of Incheon. Some of you are from there. There was a fairly famous concert promoter guy who, that's his living, so we was hustling. We proposed this for the city of Songdo, set on 1,500 acres of artificial island. In some ways, it was very outstanding. One of the first global smart cities. Trash collection, you had to pay to have your trash collected, and it went into vacuum tubes everywhere and out. You can sit up in the skyscraper overlooking Central Park and look at this beautiful scene of all the islands off of Incheon, Korea, and all the boats coming in delivering things. This is actually my dorm room looking down at the theater at SUNY Korea. 4 or 5 other American universities had their residencies there. It was a new city, developed city in the Bay, meant to be connected to airports. Incheon Airport, I'm a big fan of that airport. Been there many times. Wants to make itself a hub, very forward thinking, but no one wanted to move there. So the idea was, this is a discussion document using Songdo City as a site example. There was even a Formula One racetrack set there, which Singapore was aiming for. All the usual things to do that old Michael Bloomberg thing to attract the bourgeoisie. Therefore, you could gentrify and so forth. They shot a lot of soap operas there, a lot of movies there. A friend of mine was an actress. She was shooting a soap opera out there. But it was fraught. It had a lot of problems. It had gender in space problems. It did. Because it was designed as a city to have the workers reside. So in a typical nuclear family structure, women have the babies, men go off to work. What was happening is that men were going off to work 2 hours away, 2 hours commute, and then back, which wasn't so strange to me because I commuted for 22 years from Brooklyn to Stony Brook. So that's 2 hours one way on the train. Again, gang, it was fraught. It was fraught with gender role issues. So I would be teaching at this campus, Songdo, and see, the young housewives sitting in the tea shops during the day, and assumingly their men were jumping on the bus to take it into Seoul and come back. Not unusual for Seoul and Tokyo to commute long distances because of cost. And now New York is quite pricey. So this is not unusual for any global city like New York or Seoul or Tokyo or Berlin or London or Paris. All right, so what is the brief? What is permaculture? So with Juan, my friend's name, we came up with this brief, the public interface. I'll send that along to you. I came up with a budget, pulling, a lot of these, as we say in the business, a lot of these things out of my butt. And, but they were rational sort of. Their prices and things were meant as discussion points, and high, middle, low type bid, just the way, if you have parents who are contractors, the way that's done. And it was basically, we're approaching corporations and the government to support this. So I termed this as the Co-Evolve Festival. Korean, and the Evolve was to have evolution, but it was to be a weekend music festival. The typical ticket would be, I'm not so sure Sound on Sound has a ticket of something here. This Bridgeport is becoming a music venue place. We have two new stadiums for it, in addition to this thing on the Sound. Very beautiful over here in an old industrial town trying to remake itself from a kind of a beginning as an arms producing town. 50% of the bullets in the world at one point came from this city, Bridgeport, Connecticut, and went to both sides of the belligerents at some point. So I think in the Civil War, American Civil War, it did. Think of how many people this town has actually killed by its industry of arms, but that's a subject for discussion about what, as we discuss it now with these spree shootings and invasion of Ukraine and the arms manufacturing as a highly profitable industry, what has industrial military production done for any country to regulate its growth, the ability to make mortgages, taking those mortgages, wrapping them up as subprime or bad, spurious type mortgages, having a crash and default, blaming other people for the whole Bear Stearns thing with Iceland tanking whole countries such as Iceland and Greece, raising interest rates, which again collapse the system. How can we find a homeostasis? So we're looking for ideas at this festival. We're looking to stimulate people. We're looking at layering these things. I had friends who went to the NFT convention this past weekend in New York. I mean, I bumped into so many friends. I felt like I missed out. There was a festival. Friends of mine had a loft in Soho that they got specifically for this. These are interesting times. These are times of idea. Co-Evolve, that was my spin, which is a boilerplate. Co-Evolve Festival. Festival basic features, the estimated cost per member month prep. What did we get to in the millions? This was down at, I don't know, it looks to be, low end was 12 million. They were going to charge, even in Korea, something like $900 to $1,200 dollars to go there, camp there, hang out, do the Burning Man type thing, live there, which in America there'd be so many legal things about. I don't know how Burning Man is so expensive, but anyway, Burning Man is as apart from its earlier days have kind of ceased to be a festival of ideas. These are my budgets. This was what it involved: a life hack festival, a DIY future festival, objective fast ideas, creativity, energies, Maker Faire and concerts, which the Queen's Maker Faire was big for a while. After COVID, I don't know how many of these things COVID killed, but I miss the maker ethos. I think it's taken a hit since the app ethos has taken over, and now we just peck at buttons and scroll through clickbait. In old days, we used to hack up everything. Internet of Things, they talked about in that film. Above all, and I tell my students day one, whenever, my method is Socratic, and they say, "You're just being ambiguous, give us the answer." I said, "No, I want to get you and keep you hired. The jobs you're going to be hired for usually have no answers. You're going to have to find them or make them yourself." So this is the task for both my classes now, to do this. AG Tech, Ag Tech, Eco Tech Hack, Maker Faire, TEDx, some conferencey thing. DJ VJ thing. Let's have people dance and move and groove on the dance floor. Indie music, future film festival, uh, like cell phone film festival, even down to like the whole explosion of TikTok is evidence of this. But within this, on the left end, I want my urbanism people to talk about ideas and so forth. There it is, a little clearer. The things on the side, on the bottom, new foods, new directions, new inventions, low carbon fun, new behaviors, catalog, interview, new content, recording, interviews, catalog. So space, other, self, big time. I'm just endlessly doing these graphs just to hope that people don't fixate on this, but they use it as a springboard for other greater creativity. So we found a beach in Songdo. We set up. It was the space where Lotek put a lot of its container car sculpture on the beach. Container cars are some of the most large, structurally sound, ubiquitous things in the world. I sent you a link to why, dissing container cars as a thing, a structure. A little bit of that sounded sour grapes because it's like, where the installation, where's the heaps? It's like, duh. To live inside of these things, it takes some money to insulate them. One of them even talked about the strongest points on them are actually the edges, edge to edge, so it has to be secure. That can be done. I tell you, I lived and worked in Singapore, and on these fantastically designed building sites, the art school I taught at NTU had up to 500 workers living on the site in the supreme heat, 100-degree temp, 100-degree humidity, 50 miles north of the equator. There would always be men dying of heat exhaustion. They were usually from Sri Lanka, Tamil, south of India, and China, working away at the fantastic buildings on Singapore, with very, very, very low worker comp ideation and protection. So moving along, space, other, self, big time. What is that? We went down what the brief wants you to do. Event, spectacle, infrastructure, grants, small business development, global education. Well, what is this stuff? It sounds like platitudes. Make it real. And make it with VR this time, too. Make it a combined festival that we can combine and enter into the sort of final area as an atomic one, a molecular one, an analog one, a place for the body, a place for young people, old people, any people, families, married people, single people, to just not worry about their assumed demographic and enter into this space. You might say, oh, is this different than the World's Fairs or Disneyland or Six Flags or, not really. It's a version. We are the communal ape. We are the ape in the ant heap. We dig it. Some members of the antisocial social club don't. There is a fragmentation caused by our screens. There's not a lot of good from that. We need to return back to empathetic levels and so forth, but that is part of it. I retch at any of the Disneyland, Disney World concepts. Are horrific on their own level. That's my opinion. Same with the Disney movies. There's some form of lobotomy going on in these films, even if and when they have a fairly touchy-feely, feel-good, NIMBY liberal sort of message. There's always the double coding. Again, so we proposed this for the beach. We set it up. We approached the government. We spoke to the governors of the state. We spoke to the military because it was right on the border of North Korea. We tried to politic it and lobby it and move it along. Since then worked on another project with one in the south of Korea. We ultimately had to come back after summer. I had to come back out of Songdo back to Stony Brook, and my personal lobbying decreased. He did a tinier concert version of it, not the big money, from $12 million to $30 million. Coachella makes fantastic amounts of money. So does Burning Man. Do they render good? Yes, they do. Are we trying to render good in a praxis of just theory and practice? Yes, we are trying to do that. We are trying to facilitate discussion, now again using the methods and means of stuff. So down at the bottom we have intentional communities, online. Online education and development, yes sir, yes please. NGO and NFP modular component, yes please. That is creating entities that can get, approach, make, move, get not-for-profit research, social money, public interest money, and so forth. So this has been a lecture on your brief. I'm sending the link to this lecture to both classes so you guys can get up in it. And we'll go on talking about, I need ideas from you. Urbanism, I do need your background studies, a degree of traditional scholarship in the form of your blogs, a form of digesting your readings. But the manifestation should be a little different. It should be about creating this festival forum for new ideas. Not out of the ordinary. It's been going on for centuries. The London Expo of 1850, in which Paxton's Crystal Cathedral happened. A lot of these things developed around, as you read in your book on the creation of the Columbia exhibition in the White City, Chicago, largely made of paper mache and all of that stuff. They elicit ideas. They consolidate ideas. They propel other ideas. That led to the City Beautiful movement. I live in Garden City manifestation, out of war production from Remington, now threatened by the rising sea levels, not just a lip service or time to deny it, it's actually happening every hurricane season. I don't know what this one will hold. So that's what we're up against. Digest this. I'm posting these things, and we'll see you in the next vid. Okay.